Hi, everyone. We're going to start here in 30 seconds.
All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started for the sake of time and making sure we have plenty of time for all your questions and comments at the end of our presentation. So welcome to the first public participation meeting for the 2024 Critical Areas Ordinance update. We will be starting with a presentation shortly, but first I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. We've created an instruction guide for these meetings that also includes information for Zoom meetings if anyone needs that. It will be posted in the chat, and you can also find this document on the project's webpage. So a couple housekeeping items. Go ahead and use the chat function if you have any technical questions or need any help. Caitlin will be monitoring the chat. As you have questions specifically for the staff regarding the CAO update, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Throughout the meeting, you can submit your questions. We will have a specific time towards the end that we will answer those questions. At the end, when we are doing the questions and answers, you're also an option if you would like to verbally ask your question. You can click the raise hand function, and we will alternate between the written questions submitted and the hand raised verbal questions. There will be resources and links shared throughout the presentation. Caitlin will put those in the chat function. And this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project webpage after it's over. So first, I'd like to start with some introductions. My name is Carla Lundgren. I am long range planner and the project lead for the CAO update for 2024. I've been with the county for in this department for a little over 6 months, and I look forward to working on this project. Colin, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, Colin Poff. I'm the long range planning supervisor. So I've been with the county for a little shy of 3 years, and we'll be overseeing this 2024 CAO update.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kirby Mesablu-Yobek. I'm the Environmental Programs Planning Supervisor, and I'm here to support Carla and Colin on the CAO update.
Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Schlatter, and I'm the Executive Assistant here at DCD. And one of my roles here is to support the planning and environmental programs and the staff involved. So I am happy to be here.
Thank you. So now that you know a little bit about us and who we are, I'd like to propose our first poll question for this presentation and find out where each of you or what part of the county are you joining us from this evening. Go ahead and click which part or select your answer. We'll go ahead and show the results in a few seconds. So everyone attending can get an idea too of the interest and involvement participation with this topic in our county. Looks like we've got North Kitsap in the lead right now, but so it looks like it's a really good coverage of everyone around the county. So thank you for participating in that. Caitlin, you can, did you share the results, Caitlin?
I did, yes. Everybody was able to see them.
Just checking. I don't know if I can see the same thing everyone else can see. So,
yep.
Okay, so moving on. All right, so moving on, we've got an overview. There we go. An overview of the CAO update for 2024. So the Critical Areas Ordinance, or the CAO, is mandated by the state to be reviewed every 10 years. This review was previously required every 8, but is now required every 10 to coincide with the comprehensive plan update. Kitsap County CAO was last updated in 2017. And the CAO is meant to establish policies and regulations that guide environment protections and promotes public safety in the county's critical areas. The CAO review is based on the best available science, and updates are made by utilizing a gap analysis review. The county's target adoption date for this update is June 30th of 2024. The purpose of the Critical Areas Ordinance update is to align with the most current best available science, state laws, and guidelines that are currently in effect. By reviewing the CAO in conjunction with the comprehensive plan update, we can assure consistency, which leads to clear development regulations. By providing clarifications within Title 19 of the Kitsap County Code, we will improve the usability and predictability of the development regulations for applicants and also project reviewers. So the type of critical areas that are covered in Title 19 are fish and wildlife conservation areas. These are areas needed to conserve and maintain one or more plant or animal species. These species or the environments that support multiple species may be listed as having federal, state, or local importance. These areas are likely to be found in shorelines, coasts, along rivers and streams, near wetlands, in or near lakes and ponds, and in forests. Geological hazard areas are susceptible to erosion, sliding, earthquake, or other geological events. And these areas may be created by natural features or by human development, such as mining. Frequently flooded areas include floodplains and areas prone to flooding. They may occur near streams, rivers, lakes, coasts, wetlands, or areas with high groundwater. Flood areas pose a high risk to public safety. Critical aquifer recharge areas. These are the lands that recharge our groundwater aquifers, which are our source of drinking water. An aquifer is a geologic formation that readily transmits water to wells or springs. An aquifer is filled or recharged by water that filters through the ground. Aquifers can be unconfined or closer to the surface and connect with the water table, or confined deeper underground. And then finally, we have wetlands. Wetlands are areas that are frequently or permanently saturated with water, such as marshes, swamps, bogs, or other similar lands. Wetlands may be naturally present or intentionally created, and many wetlands in Kitsap County still need to be identified and mapped. So we have two more poll questions to propose to the group. Just out of curiosity, what percentage of land in Kitsap County has one or more critical areas present? So out of these four percentages, how high do you think the critical areas present are in Kitsap County? All right, so it looks like we've slowed down a bit. So the answer is 66%. So 66% of our lands in Kitsap County have one or more critical area present. Often they overlap. So second poll question, or I guess technically our third, of the top 5 critical areas in Kitsap County, which one is the most prevalent? Wetlands, streams, erosion hazards, frequently flooded areas, or critical aquifer recharge areas? All right. Might be slowing down a little bit. All right, so when I was getting this information, I thought for sure it was going to be wetlands, but then after I got the answer, I thought, well, that makes sense. But it's actually our critical aquifer recharge areas that are the most prevalent as far as our critical areas present in Kitsap County. All right, so this map presents a bird's eye view of how much land is covered by critical areas in Kitsap County. So this is a union of all of those critical areas just overlapping each other. The pink area is our critical areas, one or many. A big part of the CAO update is engaging with the public, providing resources and seeking opportunities for feedback. The CAO public participation plan includes several public engagement meetings like this one, a project webpage with project-related resources and status updates, staff contact information for ease of providing feedback, asking questions, and requesting community consultations, links to sign up for email updates through our Gov delivery system, a detailed flip book with important information about critical areas, and the forming of our technical advisory working groups. So our last poll question here, and then I'll pass this on to Colin, is just out of curiosity with our public participation efforts, curious as to how you heard about this meeting tonight. Fantastic. That's really helpful. All right, so I'm gonna pass the presentation over to Colin to cover the next points of our presentation.
Yep. Thank you, Carla. So as you saw, Carla just went through various approaches or methods for public participation. One really key aspect here will be our working groups that we'll hold over the summer. As you can imagine, critical area ordinance and the regulations that might be implied by that can be pretty technical in nature. So we have those working groups to try to work through those issues and their local applicability. And so those working groups will apply to, you saw there are 5 different critical areas. Each one will have its own working group who will meet at least twice for an extended period of time, or potentially more if needed, to go over a discrete set of topics for those critical areas. So we'll have like a wetlands, for example, group to go over a few different topics. Those will be made up of standing members, which are folks that are invited to actually any and all of those meetings to have a balanced perspective. Those are representatives from local tribes as well as community organizations with expertise in planning in critical areas. Those community organizations will have representatives from the development community as well as the environmental community. And so those are folks that are invited to all meetings. And then we have technical experts. So those technical experts will be specific to the critical area that we're discussing. So for wetlands, again, for example, we would have staff from an appropriate state agency, in that case, likely from the Department of Ecology, that have training and expertise in a specific critical area topic that can help us understand what we're talking about best, and also, again, help us with local applicability and implementation. So those working groups would begin with the target starting at the end of June, running through the end of the year, most likely, or into fall at least. And I'm sorry, can folks hear me? It sounds like I might be a little quiet. I'm trying to speak up.
I can hear you, Colin.
Okay, well, I'll try my best to speak up. Thanks for that. So again, the purpose of these working groups is to go alongside our general outreach that we're doing. We will be doing both at the same time, and we will provide a summary of these technical meetings or these working group meetings. But the purpose is to look at the best available science that we receive and get some recommendations about how those might result in some code language later on. So on to the next slide. I just want to touch a little bit on best available science. I just used that term as an underpinning for these working group conversations, and really an underpinning for any potential conversation we have about our county code or regulations. Best available science, or BAS, is a GMA requirement, Growth Management Act. So the state does require us to base our regulations in what's called best available science. BAS is based on a Washington Administrative Code criteria. So if there are questions about what is and isn't BAS, it is stated in the Washington Administrative Code that it's peer reviewed. It looks at their methods, logical conclusions, quantitative analysis, context, and references. So a BAS summary report would describe the functions of values of different critical areas. It will also look into any best available science that has come about since we last completed our periodic update in 2017. And we'll present that as this is something that we need to look at and that has come up in recent years. A BAS, or a best available science report, is essentially a literature review. It's not supposed to be an actual analysis of our code or the shortcomings or the successes of our code. It's just a literature review of that science. There's actually a document called a gap and consistency analysis where we do identify where there might be gaps in our regulations, and I'll cover that in a minute. So again, we will consider local applicability and implementation of the best available science as we go. And this is also something that is being currently worked on. So I want to mention it will be available for public review by June of this year, and probably early June at the latest. So there will be a best available science summary report that we will upload to our website and make sure we notify everyone that it's available. And we would really encourage folks to comment or to give us, their feedback on that best available science report as well. So the next slide would be gap and consistency analysis. So again, this is where we took a little bit more of a evaluation of our code, or a critical eye to our code, to look at where there might be gaps or where it might be consistent with this best available science. So again, this would apply the best available science, but actually this is where you would go to see any potential gaps that need to be addressed. And I would encourage you to look at it through this lens. There are three kind of different types of gaps. There are those that are required. Those are things that we must address in order to be consistent with state law and guidelines, to have a valid critical area ordinance. There are those that are recommended. So recommended changes based on best available science review or evaluation of current code. So that would be something that, okay, we need to address this, we need to talk about this and work through some potential amendments. And then discretionary changes would be those changes that aren't really required by best available science or aren't required by state law, but there are changes based on the need for improvement of our current code to add clarity and predictability, or potentially just housekeeping changes, those kinds of things. So we would most likely have a list of those kind of changes as well, where we can make some improvements. So if you see this document, I encourage you to look at it kind of through this lens in order to kind of interpret it. And again, this will be posted on our website as well for public review, likely shortly after the best available science is posted. So I would expect this gap and consistency analysis to be available sometime in probably mid-June. And again, we'd encourage anyone to ask any questions they have about it or to provide comment at that time. Okay, next slide. Okay, so also we are still in the beginning phases of this project, really. So this is a kickoff meeting. I'd like you to think of it as a three-phase project. So we're still in phase one going through June. Again, this is really, like I said, a lot of this is led by the best available science review. So that is underway. We're also in phase one, developing our outreach and engagement materials and plans. We've launched our website. That'll be, I encourage you to follow that website. Distribute surveys like the one that you would receive after this meeting. And also we've identified those members for those working groups that I talked about. So we'll be reaching out to those folks. So that's phase one that goes through June. And then over the summer and to the end of the year, June through December would be phase two. I would call this technical development. This is where we're actually trying to develop some code language and go through the process that's necessary and the outreach necessary to develop code that is reflective of our requirements and recommendations. So we will be holding public meetings at that time as well, including an in-person open house. Over the summer, we'll also be having those working group meetings that I mentioned and providing a summary of what comes from those meetings. We'll be holding as needed consultations with community groups, folks that request to meet with us, speak with us. Again, you're very encouraged to do that so that we can discuss things in more detail. And we'll also be providing briefings and work studies with the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners to inform them along the way of where we are headed with potential amendments or changes. And then phase 3, occurring in the year 2024, January through our target adoption of June 2024, is the review and adoption process. So by January 2024, you will very likely have some draft changes, some draft code language that will be available for public review and a public comment period at that time. And we will go through the process of having that feedback and meeting again with the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners to review these potential changes and move it towards a final draft ordinance and ultimately adoption in June. Next slide. So this is just going to reiterate kind of a little bit of what I just said, but here are some upcoming next steps in the short term. We're here in May having our first virtual public participation meeting. This won't be the last. You'll have opportunities for more meetings and more interactions with us along the way. Again, we are reviewing right now the best available science report, some preliminary findings that we've received from our consultant on this project. And we'd like to make that available soon by early June for public feedback. So again, there'll be notification of that going up available for review. In June, we're also going to be meeting with the Board of Commissioners to brief them on what we've heard on the best available science, what we've heard from some feedback, preliminary feedback we've gotten from the public, and some idea of what the project scope will be based on that. Like I said, there's going to be recommended, required, and discretionary changes, and we want to start to focus at this point on what we might be looking at. And then, like I said, beginning in July, potentially the end of June, those working group meetings will begin, and we'll be going into phase 2 of the project. Next slide. So again, this is just a kickoff meeting. I hope that covers a lot about our process and what to expect along the way. I really encourage everyone to check out that project webpage there. There's a QR code also on your screen that'll take you right to that page. Any upcoming documents, notifications, events will be on that webpage, but you're always able to contact us by that email you see there, codeupdates@kitsap.gov. So any questions about where we are in the process, any comments you'd like to make, please direct them to that email and we'll definitely respond promptly. If you are going to make a comment that you'd like on the public record, you can do that at any time, but I encourage you in that email to make sure it's clear that this is a comment that you'd like to clear that this is a comment. So again, I'm the planning supervisor. I would be a good contact for this. That's my email. Carla Lundgren, also a great contact for this project. Please reach out to us if needed. If there's any follow-up from this meeting, please just follow up with us. We'd be happy to look into something a little bit more for you. And that would conclude the presentation. We wanted to make sure we have ample time for any questions. So I'm going to give it to Kirby here in a minute to field any questions you all have. But just to remind you, you can use the Q&A to submit a question in writing, or you can use your raise hand function and Kirby would call on you and you can ask your question that way. So thank you.
Thank you, Colin. I see we have 3 questions in the Q&A bar right now. So I'll just go ahead and read those and then we can field them as they come. And then I see 1 hand raised. So I'll read the first question. Will the Critical Areas Ordinance update include review of marine critical habitat, including eelgrass, kelp, mudflats, etc.? So answering that live, Colin, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like something that was probably relevant to our Shoreline Master Program, which is Title 22 of our code. Critical Area Ordinance does not cover the shoreline jurisdiction specifically, which is those areas that are 200 feet from a shoreline of the state and those marine environments. We did recently update our shoreline master program, or the periodic update of it. Yeah, that would cover those kind of habitats.
Thank you, Colin. Yes, the Critical Areas Ordinance update is focused on the 5 critical areas that Carla had reviewed. All right, we'll go to Deborah. Do you want to unmute yourself and speak?
Caitlin might have to unmute her.
Are we ready?
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Deborah.
Thank you. My question is, who are the people that are involved in reviewing all this besides you in the meeting? Are the tribes involved, the EPA, the Corps of Engineers? Who are all the people that are involved in reviewing all and making these decisions?
Thanks for that. Yeah, we multiple agencies and public are involved in this. Like I said, we review first the best available science. A lot of that best available science does come from guidance from different agencies like Department of Fish and Wildlife or Department of Ecology. So naturally, they're involved in our review of some of those documents as well. We have the working groups, which are specifically designed to include a few interest groups, tribes, and those technical experts at those agencies as well. We will be doing our normal outreach methods to reach our normal distribution list of agencies and groups and individuals, and fielding input really at any time. And we're also hoping to, hold consultations with folks. If there's someone that perhaps we haven't thought of or wasn't on our public participation plan, we really want to try to give opportunities for those people to reach out to us so that we can engage with them as well.
And just to that, the proposed Critical Areas Ordinance update will be put in front of the Board of County Commissioners for their review and approval in June of 2024.
My concern is that this is all just business people, not actually people that are actual professionals.
Yeah, we want to have a diverse voice, if you will. Especially, like for example, with those working groups, we invite folks from the development community, but also from the environmental community, from the tribes, and we definitely want to hear from all perspectives. The key really is local implementation, and so it's really important to try to hear from all voices when we're making decisions.
Because people won't be able to get insurance if this is changed from what is federally regulated critical wetlands.
Okay, thank you, Deborah, for your questions and comments. If you have any further questions, please reach out to Carla Lundgren or the Code Updates email. But rest assured that our working group itself is also comprised of technical staff from state agencies that are experts and have experience in all the critical areas. And so thank you so much for the great question. All right, we'll go back to the Q&A bar. So Robert Wenman has a question about can the public participate in recommending scientific literature to be included in the BAS review?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. We will be posting this review. Again, this is provided primarily by our consultants, Best Available Science Review. But again, it's not meant to have any evaluation of our local implementation or our code. That's for later on in the process. So yeah, we do want folks to review that document and to give us their involvement in it and their perspective on it as well.
Thank you, Colin. I see Jan Wald with their hand raised. Jan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what my question is, or it's actually more input. There's a really important wildlife corridor that goes from Liberty Bay, or basically East Puget Sound, Southern Puget Sound, across Highway 3 over to Hood Canal. And it's the only last really remaining wildlife corridor with much habitat left. How are you going to consider trying to protect something like that when it's probably the only one in the north part of Kitsap County that hooks up Hood Canal and Puget Sound?
I don't know enough specifically about that corridor. I'm curious if you had anything, Kirby, that
Yeah,
specifically.
yes, I know a little bit about this wildlife corridor, but this is a great comment and we will take it into consideration, Jan, and we'll be finding other resources and maps to make sure it's included in our fish and wildlife conservation areas.
And I have some input. I can just email that to you, I assume, because
Yes,
it's really
please.
about the only thing left, and it does have an opportunity to get across Highway 3 because there's the overpass on Sherman Hill Road, and there's also culverts underneath the highway on Johnson Creek. And Johnson Creek is a wildlife corridor for the city of Paulsbo.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jan. Please do send those our way, please. All right, moving to the next question in the Q&A. This is from an anonymous attendee. Our group members, I'm assuming our working group members, screen for conflict of interests with a CAO. I can take that, Colin. Our intention for developing the working group, like Colin explained, we have kind of two sets of groups that comprise the working group. So we have standing members from all the tribes with usual and accustomed areas in Kitsap County. We also are inviting 4 community groups, 2 from the building and developing community and 2 from the environmental community. And then we have a group of technical folks from the different state agencies, from Fish and Wildlife, Department of Natural Resources, Ecology, our health district, to participate in specific critical area topics and provide review and recommendations and input on any proposed changes or updates to the critical areas code or ordinance. And so, yes, we are taking, we want to maintain balance and fairness in the makeup of the working group.
Thanks for that.
All right, I don't see any hand raised in the attendees, so I'll go back to the Q&A. Elizabeth Nichols, will a recording of this meeting be shared out on the website later for those who couldn't make this meeting? Carla,
Yes.
you want
Yes, so it is being recorded and we will publish it onto the Critical Areas update page probably tomorrow or by Friday for those that could not attend. And all of the resources that we've shared and the links that we've shared throughout the meeting will be available as well.
Thank you, Carla. All right, so I see Deborah sent. Let's take David Smith's question first and go to Deborah. Does Kitsap County follow the required Department of Ecology interpretations of the sequencing? So I'm assuming that's mitigation sequencing. So Colin, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Yes, we follow mitigation sequencing, which is to avoid and minimize and mitigate and monitor. But so yes, that is definitely in our code. We will definitely have a chance to review and make sure that we're up to date and that we're nothing is inconsistent with any new interpretations, new guidance. But yeah, we definitely have mitigation sequencing, and it comes up multiple times in our current critical area ordinance.
Thank you, Colin. I'll ask Deborah, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. I had a question about, is there a hydrologist in the working group?
Yes, there will be a technical expert from a state agency that will help us with hydrology issues and questions.
Okay, and will that person be, will we have a name and be advised of who that person is?
Yes,
Because I live in a critical wetlands area and I'd like to know who that person is.
okay, yes. As soon as we finalize our working group list of working group members, we'll go ahead and share that list on our webpage. So everything about this process will be transparent to the public.
Okay, thank you. My grandparents were the ones who donated the majority of the Bremerton watershed area, and I would like to know who that person is.
Of course. Thank you so much, Deborah.
I also think this is a good time for me just to remind everyone if you're not already signed up for Gov Delivery notifications on our website, that is the best place to get notified or to sign up for those so that we can notify you when the webpage does get updated with important information like the working groups or the BAS report is available for feedback, things like that. So.
Thank you, Carla.
Carly, do you want to pull up the previous slide actually, just so?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Just again, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So there's the project webpage again. If you missed that, the email address that I monitor. So I will get your comments and your questions, but you're also very welcome to send me a direct email. There's my email address and Colin as well. And that phone number goes to, as many of you might know, goes to our call center, our Kids Up One call center. If you specifically ask for myself or Colin, they will send you to us.
Thank you, Carla. I'll take us back to the Q&A. We have another question in here. Would you share on the project website the latest technology on wetlands delineation? The National Wetlands Inventory seems way outdated. Colin or Carla, do you want to take this, or is this something that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know that that's something that we will have available to us during this process, but I'm more than happy to sort of jot that question down and then look into that. Unless Colin knows more than I do.
No, I don't want to misspeak, so I'm happy to look into it more and also get back if you want to contact us directly to look into more about where the data. I know, you know, I do know that not all the wetlands that are mapped on our parcel viewer are always accurate to what's on the ground now. So when a project comes about and there's wetlands shown on a property, we actually need to go out and delineate those wetlands to know where they are and you know, in real life. So I would mention that. There's also been ideas about having wetlands mapped that have shown up from previous projects, and we you know, they're surveyed and we can record them and things like that, but that's not the case right now. But I can look into that a little bit more for this person if they would like.
Thank you, Colin. All right, I see David Smith with their hand up. David, you ready to speak?
Yeah, I have a question for Colin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Colin, I didn't quite understand your answer to my question about whether the Kitsap County will follow strictly the interpretations that DOE provides for the sequencing steps. And you answered the question that Kitsap County Code does, but that wasn't the question I asked. I asked, do they follow the interpretation required by DOE?
I see. I think what you're asking is maybe a question of regulatory effectiveness rather than potentially what's in our code. And so that's another element of this update, like that we can look at as well, is kind of through those discretionary changes. We can review topics that need to be reviewed for clarity, for consistency. So I can't really speak to project by project, the mitigation for project by propagation or mitigation sequencing. I know it's in our code, and I know that we're always looking for ways to improve if code is unclear or having issues with implementation. I hope that answers your question.
Are you aware that the community development director has determined that that they are taking a different interpretation of the sequencing steps than DOE?
I don't think I'm aware of specifically what you're talking about now.
Well, they're insisting that mitigation cannot be done to increase density. Did I make myself
Are
clear?
you talking specifically for a project or for a plat, or
It doesn't make any difference.
kind of- yeah.
Colin, it doesn't make any difference. The question I'm asking is, I'm trying to be clear, is the DOE states that the interpretation of the sequencing steps is that it is the developer that decides whether or not mitigation is less costly than the first two steps, avoidance and minimization, which the county recently has decided, county staff has decided that they do not agree with that. Do you follow state law or not?
Well, I'm not familiar with this other interpretation that you're talking about, but I would definitely love to look into that more and see if we have.
May I send you the quotes from Jeffrey Mack and both Kathleen's?
You can,
Yes.
yeah, you can forward that to me or to Carla. And I'll definitely investigate it further for you, for sure. Thank you.
I have one further question. Are you part of the county staff that is working with Steve Seago to develop mitigation banks?
I'm not familiar with that. Gertie?
Carla, are you?
No, I'm not familiar with that either.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you. I'll take us to question in the Q&A. So this is from Marla Powers. Is the same consultant working on the BAS and the gap analysis and consistency analysis? The answer is yes. We are working with the watershed company, our consultants for the Critical Areas Ordinance, and they will be working on the BAS summary as well as the gap and consistency analysis. And then let's go to Jan Wald and then come back to the Q&A. Go ahead and unmute, Jan.
Well, I've hit it. Did it work?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. I have some concerns about our salmon streams in particular, and the buffers not being adequate. And my concerns come from kind of two areas. One is that the estuaries of most of these streams, 30% of all of those of the tidelands in Puget Sound are under contract for commercial shellfish farms, 30%. And most of that is located in estuaries in the mouths of the salmon streams. So we have that going on and the impact from that. And then as an example, Johnson Creek up in the North Kitsap area near Paulsbo flows into Liberty Bay near Paulsbo. And I think about a quarter of that stream area is probably in the city of Paulsbo and probably 3/4 in the county. And the city does have bigger buffers, but even with those, between all of the hardening off and development and the huge settling ponds, the salmon runs have been basically all but eradicated from that creek. There may still be a few chum coming in there, but the rest are all gone along with most of the organisms that need cool water and oxygen. So I would really encourage you to think very seriously about increasing the size of your buffers to see if not only we can start to save some of these salmon runs, but also take a look at using impervious surfaces as much as you can. So I'm wondering, where are you at with the buffer? I assume you'll be looking at the sizes.
Thanks for that. Yeah, the buffers may be one thing that we're looking at. It's obviously one of the hallmark parts of the science behind the functions and values of streams and of wetlands. So definitely we review those, starting with the best available science, and to see where we're at with our buffers. So that'd be the first step. You also mentioned some things that might be in addition to maybe at the watershed level, like impervious surfaces, things like that. Slightly different discussion, but obviously something that we can look at as well in this update. And if you have specific examples or things like that, we have your comment now, but feel free to send that to us as well so we can look into it a little bit more. But yeah, we will be looking at where our buffers are at in regards to kind of recent science. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And I will send you some information, but also the eradication of these salmon runs has occurred using best available science. So I think some serious looking needs to occur in terms of some of these salmon streams that I don't think best available science is actually protecting. So I hope you will look very seriously into that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Your comment will be taken into consideration and definitely noted. All right, we have a question in the Q&A from Mike. 2 questions from Mike. Will the streams be added to the critical areas maps as a permanent layer in ArcGIS? I'll try and answer this. Yes, the stream layer is available in the in our parcel search. It's a permanent layer. We do recognize that a lot of our streams are not all mapped, and so the county is taking steps to continuously map all our streams and make sure that our maps are accurate at all times. And then second question from Mike. The county has a stream brochure. Will it be followed? Yes, the county does have a stream brochure that explains kind of the different types of streams. We will be, if there are changes that need to be made to that brochure, we will update the brochure as needed based on this Critical Areas Ordinance update. I hope I answered your question, Mike, but if I did not, please feel free to raise your hand and elaborate more. I don't know if Colin or Carla, you wanted to add to those.
Oh, I think you covered it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jan, I see your hand is still up. Is that from a remnant from the last question? Or did you have another question?
No, I don't have another question.
Okay. So we have about 12 more minutes in this meeting, so feel free to raise your hand or put your question in the chat. If you have specific questions about the Critical Areas Ordinance update and you want to reach out to Colin or Carla, please, feel free to do so. But yeah, we'll be here. We'll be hanging out till 6:30 in case any of you have more questions.
Yeah, and if anyone leaves before the end of the meeting, I will be sending out a survey to all of the attendees for some feedback. I'll also be sending the survey out to individuals on our outreach list that may not have been able to attend, so we can get some feedback from them too. So just sort of look for that, and we would love your feedback. We're always trying to improve our process and streamline and make it effective. So, but.
Well, I really appreciate everyone's questions, really good questions, and especially for a kickoff meeting. So
Mhm.
again, this is recorded, and please just reach out to us with anything else that comes up. Any questions that would need more time, just send them to us. We'd love to look into those. Looks like we have one here. Post the slides of the presentation on the website. We can do that. We can
Yep.
post.
I failed to mention that, but I will be posting those as well. And then also, if you know of a group that you think you're not sure if they're on our outreach list and you want to check, you can email or call me. We can double check and make sure they're on our outreach list. We do have a lot of groups and agencies on the list already, but we're always looking to build it to be better. So.
Carla, did you want to share the website and just kind of walk through what folks can find on the
Sure.
website?
I'm gonna need to stop sharing for just a second so I can pull it up. Probably should have had this up already.
Well, it's also in the chat for quick access for anyone as a reminder.
All right, so let me go back to sharing. All right, so here is the project webpage that the link was provided. It's also on this on the last slide. So we've got the meeting updates here. So any upcoming events will be on the right-hand side. Got a brief description, which we went over already in this presentation. Here's the flip book that I was mentioning. It's actually really cool and it's, I think, done very well. So if you're looking for more information about our critical areas, you can find it there. Project documents will be found here. So a copy of our public participation plan is uploaded here. And then those public meeting instructions that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation are also here. We've got project notices. So typically when I send out a notice or any of us send out a notice to the public, letting them know about different stages or opportunities in the project that are happening, we will also put a copy of them here. Again, you saw this on one of the slides, the different phases. We've got our contact information. We've got some related links here that are related to the CAO update. Our phase 1 schedule, some different opportunities on how to stay involved and updated. So this first link is to sign up for a Gov Delivery email notification if you haven't done so already, or if you want to forward that link to other people that you want to encourage to participate and stay in the know, feel free to send them that. The code updates email address that you can send your comments, any questions, that is monitored daily by myself. So that's there. And then we've got our team roles and responsibility table on the bottom here. So we have everyone who's sort of involved. Some aren't more involved than others, but you've got the names and the associations with organizations and the roles. We do have a critical areas map here. It's different than the one that I showed in one of my slides. And it's kind of a little bit difficult to read at this point when you make it larger. So I am going to clean that up. I don't even know. Oh, there we go. So because we've got everything overlapping. So I'm definitely going to work on that to make that a better option. But I know I don't know how to get out of here. Anyways. Let me move that. There we go. So that is the web page. If you, again, have any questions or comments. Did we have a question or comment? No. Well, I'm going to take this as a sign that we've done an amazing job of giving everyone the information that they need. That's going to be my take. If you think of a question or comment later, like I said, feel free to email or call. And we'll just keep adding to this webpage more and more information as it comes through. This is where this area right here where it says project documents, when we have that best available science report ready to post on the webpage for public feedback, that this will be where it'll be located. Yeah. I feel like we've covered.
Yep. Thank you, Robin, for that. All right, well, like Kirby said, we'll hang out for 5 more minutes if anyone else thinks of something or rolls in really late. Otherwise, I think that pretty much covers it.
Scott, you unmuted yourself unless in case you didn't mean to do that.
I saw a hand go up.
Saw a hand for a minute.
There, Elizabeth. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, hi there. I just pulled in from work and I'm just wondering if if the Kitsap County Department of Community Development is working closely with the Washington State Wetland Program Plan. It's it looks like it's a consortium of all the government agencies with really focusing on a watershed approach to wetlands management.
Can you repeat that again? Washington State
Wetland Program Plan. And it was prepared by the Wetland Program Plan Interagency Work Group in 2015. It's Department of Ecology as well. I think someone else mentioned that. Department of Ecology being pretty important. But they're really focusing on the importance of watershed approach and not piecemeal approach. And it seems like our county does a lot of, especially with variances, lots of piecemeal approvals, but not looking at the whole watershed.
Sure. Yeah, I'm personally not familiar with that. Definitely want to look into it, but I think we share the feeling with that concept. We do kind of try to look at things more from a programmatic level as well. Yeah, we talk about treating our natural resources as an asset as one of the things that's key to our work. So one way to do that better is to see the big picture. When you look at critical area regulations like a buffer, yeah, that is more site specific. But when we ask for a habitat report, that does look sometimes at a larger scale, and also we want to, as a county, know more about a larger scale. So. Okay. But that could be a good resource for us. So thanks for that.
Okay, and great. And then one more quick thing I wanted to add in, the approach of net ecological gain is the new push from the, especially the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife in salmon recovery, because no net loss as a philosophy has not been successful. There is continued loss of salmon. So there is a move to look at improving resources and having an approach of net ecological gain. So I'd encourage you to really look at that philosophy.
Appreciate that. Yeah. There's a guidance developing on that concept. So currently as it stands, the concept under Growth Management Act is still no net loss. No net ecological gain is something that I believe there's a proviso out there, some sort of guidance, and especially as it might pertain to potentially for public projects, but it's still something kind of in development at this point for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We have one more question in the Q&A, and this is from Don F. Will the working group meetings be available for viewing by community members? So right now we don't have a specific answer to that. At this point, we are only inviting the standing members and the technical folks to review, the best available science, any recommended changes. That group will be making recommendations that we'll be bringing to the Planning Commission, department staff, as well as the Board of County Commissioners. Those meetings are definitely public meetings, and everybody is invited to participate in those and provide comments as needed and when the opportunity comes up. But more information about the working group, whether or not they're open to the public, will be available. We'll share those information on the website as well. Colin or Carla or Scott, do you have any input on that?
Not at this time.
No, I
I do not.
think you got it. Thank you.
So it is now 6:30. So Kirby, do we have any other questions?
I don't see any questions in the Q&A or any raised hands.
Okay, so I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. This was I feel like it was a really productive meeting. It was great hearing from everyone that attended, and the questions that you posed and the comments that you provided are going to only just help us move through this process more successfully. So stay tuned to more updates on upcoming meetings, the best available science report release for public feedback. And again, reach out to us anytime you have a question or a comment regarding this process. So, and look for the survey in your email because I'm going to send it out. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks all.
everybody.